Okay, so in terms of format, I suggest that I kick off with a couple of questions that I think is relevant for the course and for all of you. Also to have a little bit of a structure in the beginning, because I think many of you would like to ask the same questions. And then the second part, we will have enough time also for you to ask questions. But maybe we can stick to clarification questions from the audience in the first, let's say, half hour, if something is not clear. And then we open up the floor after, let's say, 45 minutes or so, depending on how it goes. All right? Okay, thanks again. Next week, it's the Amsterdam Dance Event. So Dennis will have a lot of talks that week as well. So he's a very well-known expert in the field. He was our guest speaker in, I think, 2015, a couple of years ago. And so I'm very happy to have him here, and also for me to learn what has changed in the meantime. But perhaps you can start with a short introduction of your background. So what you do, how do you help artists more specifically, like Hardwell and Giorgino Wijnaldum, for example?
Yeah, well, my name is Denis Doeland. I always say like Doeland in English. I don't know why, but yeah, it sounds nice. I'm a business and industry hacker. And what does that mean actually? Yeah, business and industry hacker is somebody who is busy actually to help the organization grow. And what I do is actually look to external information and internal information and combine them, yeah, and come up with some goals and objectives, some new goals and objectives, and restructure advisors of the company, of the organization. And that's quite a process actually, because most of my clients are always asking to me like, oh, hey, can you help me with my marketing and communication because I want to have more turnover. You always want to have more fans. So typical clients for me, like I'm working in the sport media and entertainment field, and typical clients like Hardwell, yeah, the DJ, the artist, or the athlete or the football player, Giorgino Wijnaldum, who's playing for Liverpool FC. Actually, they always they have a lot of challenges, yeah, with their ability to gain fans and to retain fans, actually. They also have a really challenge with the ability of grow their revenue. And what does revenue mean for Hardwell, and what does revenue mean for Wijnaldum, for example, for a football player? Because we know that both guys making an awful lot of money already because they are performing. An artist like Hardwell is, what he makes on a performance, that's dozen times, a model salary actually. The same for the football player. And that's because they actually have fans. What they do with the performance on the decks or during an event or a festival or on the field, that's actually reflecting and resonating to fans. Live on the place where you are, and actually not on the place where you are. Like here. You are here for a live lecture. Or for people at home are also watching. That's the same mechanism. But the understanding of that mechanism for those guys or organizations who work with those guys is really difficult. Because they are playing football and they are performing music. Yeah? So that's the basic primary thing. Yeah, and then talking about company value, because those guys are companies. They're not individuals, they're companies. You know why? They have managers. And they have people who arrange their social media. And they have marketing specialists. And they work with brands like Adidas, for example. Yeah? Or KLM in Hardwell's case. Yeah? So they need to understand business. Well, to be able to understand business while you have a creative job. Or how you say this, I don't know, a sportive job. Yeah? That's difficult.
Can you maybe using the Hardwell example, give an idea of the type of people and the whole team around Hardwell? So how many people, what are their roles, and do they work full time for this person, or are these freelancers that work for several
Yeah, well, an organization of hardware, but also as a football player, has many different people around them. And there's not only people working on a payroll, yeah, for the management, for example, or the record company, or the music publishing company, or the sponsor or endorsement management part, or the promotion part, or whatever. Yeah, so there are a lot of people involved. The team of hardware, yeah. But when we have a typical music release, there are probably around 8 till 12 people working on the product, on the release. Yeah? So that's a manager who has to decide and guard his brand value, for example, or his reputation. Yeah? Then you have like the exploiting company, which is the record company who is, is releasing the tracks, the songs. Actually, they are busy with the product, like the sleeve and the title and the types of tracks, yeah? Like remixes and all kind of versions of a particular song. And they have to be all in line, yeah, with that new model, actually, because that's the real thing they have to tackle. Putting out music is not that difficult. Playing football is also not that difficult. Yeah? Playing good football, that's already more difficult. You have to be good. Doing a very good deal with your club, your football club, or your brand, which is your sponsor, or whatever, that's really difficult, actually. In Hardwell's case, with the song, all the stakeholders, yeah, that's a real challenge. And the other challenge is actually you have different layers of revenue streams. You have to identify the primary revenue streams, and you have to identify the secondary revenue streams. And one of the anecdotes of my 4-year, maybe it's my 5th year working now for Hardwell, is I was saying, like in the beginning, like, and your performances are not your main primary revenue stream. Well, if you make more than 10 million, yeah, on performances, yeah, the whole team will say, like, what the fuck? Because you're saying this is not the most important? No, I said the most important is actually the music revenue stream. And therefore, actually, the fan relationship, that's the real deal, to be honest. So the music actually is the driver of Hardwell's business model.
You mean the streaming music is a driver, or the live?
Well, that's the way how you distribute music. So the songs are the driver, yeah, of his career. When there are no songs, it's very difficult for an artist, yeah, to have an artist career. Because the songs are the one things we relate to as fans or clients. Yeah. So that means actually we have to understand, yeah, the purpose of the song. And the purpose of the song is building relationships. So here it comes, actually, this whole business model of Hardwell is managing the artist-fan relationship. Because that's the lifeline of the business model. And you know what? The music industry and the organizations around that and all people involved are not built for that. You know why? Because that's like, I call it a circle, you know, so the artist-fan relationship is in the middle, and all of these 6 stakeholders have to work together on that artist-fan relationship. And when you're only making a remuneration on the music stream, for example, then you don't care how many Facebook fans an artist will have. You just want to have the remuneration, your part of the income on the music stream. You know, this whole thing got to do with the democratization, of music, because in the early 50s, 60s, and 70s, and maybe you have seen the great series on was it on Netflix? Yeah, it was on Netflix actually, called Vinyl. Yeah, you have to watch that because it's explaining very clear, how the music industry was organized. Which means actually to record a song, That's very expensive because you need a studio, and at that time the analog equipment was very expensive. So a studio cost about 2, 3, 4 million to build. That's a big investment. So the record company built studios actually, and they are lending actually the studios, so time and money, to record songs. And that means actually that the record company was in charge of the whole pyramid. Well, when the artist-fan relationship is the most important thing now in the digital world, then you see like, oh, that's already like not fitting into each other. Nowadays, yeah, with €1,000, you easily could record your hit song. Because you buy an Apple, that costs a bit more, €1,000 actually, let's say €1,500. You steal some plugins, yeah, because they are free on the illegal internet, yeah, on the dark web. So you steal some before you pay for them because you want to know. And you go with your Apple computer and you build a song. That's possible. And there are a lot of already artists, yeah, who have proven to be successful on very low cost investment products. Like, for example, Skrillex. Maybe you heard of him. Top 10 DJ. This is a typical guy, a do-it-yourself guy, you know, without big studios. Nowadays, yeah, probably he will use, you know, the big studios. But in the beginning days, he was like a really laptop producer.
Maybe a question related to that. So you're saying your fans are your most important capital, right?
Asset, yes.
Asset. Was it in the past? Now, and I think you're proposing that artists should own their own fan base. But how was in the past? Were the fans more linked to the companies and the labels? Or did the labels own sort of the fan base, or did that dynamic change? Because it seems as if artists now own all their own social media channels and they have a manager that helps them exploit it, that they are much more powerful to taking their fan base to a completely different company. Is that the case? Is there?
Well, you know, I said it's a rhetorical question actually, but let's explain this actually. The music distribution system was a linear system, and in this linear system, actually, you had like a recording studio, and you had the client or the fan. And in between you had the record company with the artist and repertoire department who's deciding which songs comes out. Then you got the marketing department and a promotional department. So in the company you already had some stages to go. And then you have the distributor. Because physical products were stored in warehouses and shipped by, how you say this, trucks, yeah, to stores. And then they come to stores, but the stores, when you have a chain store, like in the past, maybe you heard of it, maybe you're not, Free Record Shop. Who knows Free Record Shop? Well, okay. Yes, there are still some analog people. Great. Yeah, but you have this, and they also have a warehouse. So it goes from warehouse to warehouse, and then it goes from, you know, the warehouse to 500 stores or Free Record Shop, yeah, in the country. Okay. And then it comes to the client. And the client buys the product because he heard it on the radio or he heard it in a club, played by a DJ. So when he buys it at Free Record Shop. But they don't store like who's buying it in the beginning. So how are you going to manage, you know, that artist-fan relationship? And here comes actually my history, to be honest. You know, I started in 1992. At a small, quite nice events company called ID&T. With my best friends Duncan, Eric and Irvan actually. Yeah, we set up events, but also a music company, yeah, with recordings and publishing. And we already were able to manage artist-fan relationship in a different way. What we did with a Thunderdome series. Does everybody know what Thunderdome is? Yeah, who's not? It's gabber music. When you look up in Google and you say like Thunderdome, yeah, just play the first video you find. Yeah, that's the gabber music. So that's really high speed and really loud and banging. However, we were quite successful in that, to be honest. We sold about 5 million CDs of that. But what we did from the mid-90s, like already building relationship with fans, because we understood the mechanism of the chain, and what we did, and this is a quite great anecdote to be honest, is like we put a booklet in the CDs with some t-shirts which you could order, yeah, and you only have to fill in, like I want to have the t-shirt, and we will send it to you, and then you will do a bank transfer. So that's how we get our information and our fan relationships. That's how we built the first databases, which were Excel sheets, to be honest. And that's how we knew which people were buying our products. And there we were able to put a map of Holland on the wall and say like, hey, the people are coming from there, for them. We should organize events over there. This is 1994. It's pre-maturity of internet. Yeah? So this whole thing of realizing, yeah, and be aware of how the chain is working and how the relationship is the most important thing. Yeah? That's the part you have to play.
What was the product in this case? Was it the festival? What was the product in this case? Was it a CD or was it the festival?
Well, to be honest, as ID&T, we became quite big in the festival world. If you ask an average, entertainment lover and say like, where do you go? Yeah, I went to an ID&T event because we had like 26 brands or something over the years. So everybody thinks we are a festival organizer at that time. However, if I look at the figures, then I saw some things which I use now in these days. We sold from every volume of Thunderdome, let's say quarterly, 250,000 units. And every time we sold a new item, we sold also the back catalog. So when a new comes, then the other comes. So it was growing all the time. We did 3 or 4 events of Thunderdome in the same year. And that holds only in general, let's say 40,000 tickets. We were not able to make money on the events at all. They cost money, a lot of money, to be honest, because we already were busy with big decorations, big stages, whatever. Yeah, that's what we like the early or innovation stage of the events actually. So the music was the driver actually of the brand Thunderdome, and then the events came, and the events were evolving, and we became more smart. Yeah, in organizing events and etc., and how to market them. Yeah, so it was moving, it was shifting actually, but the music was the driver. The Thunderdome series. But even when I look, for example, at Sensation, which is also like a well-known brand of ID&T. Yeah, if you look at that, we were selling, let's say 37,000 tickets in the Amsterdam Arena. We sold about 75,000 or 100,000 CDs at that time. Yeah, so still that proves, yeah, at the time. And then when you look at the illegal downloads and yeah, on all the torrents, yeah, then you see like, okay, the music is still the driver to do an event.
Great to also that you talk a little bit about the history, so how the business model evolved. So what if you look at the situation now? So what are the common revenue streams of, let's say, top 50 DJ Mag DJs, if you split it up in different types? So what is the percentage of revenues that they get from physical music sales, which I guess is not too high, and digital album sales or song sales, streaming, live performance, merchandising? Is there any sort of rough indication that you could give where most of the money is coming from? I understand that's very different for every artist.
Well, when you look at general reports, then you will find the division actually. But there is no division for me, because it's a business decision which type of income or revenue streams you're going to aim for. And when the model is actually, revenue stream of music is first, because we need to release music to get performances, to get merchandising, to get sponsoring, in that order, Yeah? So primary revenue streams, secondary revenue streams, the other three secondary revenue streams. Yeah? Then you say like, okay, this is my pie. When we look at volume, yeah, then you will see like the music revenue stream is not that big as the performance. Yeah? So the division is, yeah, but the, how you say this, the concentration or where you focus on, yeah, is that revenue stream, because the importance of that revenue stream got another, it's got another purpose actually for you. It's a driver to your performances. And that's why you have also comes the planning in, because you plan in layers. Yeah, that's people talk about later on that how the organization comes to an optimization of the business model. Well, that's how you look. So if you look from the angle how everybody does it, then you look at all the reports and saying like, well, you make the most of the performances. So what automatically people do? You look at the biggest revenue stream. But you need another revenue stream to come to that, in my opinion. That's why I do every day. So, and that's proven actually a growth model. Yeah, we will come in that later also as well. Yeah? So the focus, yeah. So if the answer is what's the biggest revenue stream, that's performance. Yeah? And then music streaming, then merchandising and endorsement or sponsoring kind of things.
Really
Yeah?
on average.
On average, yeah, and it depends on your focus, how big that is, that piece of the pie.
And just out of curiosity, I'm not sure if this is the right timing, but anyway, so if you look at streaming revenues, how much of the streaming revenues, let's say from Spotify, go to which partners in these sort of network of people who are involved in the success of an artist? Is it? Can you say a little bit about that? Is it going only to two parties?
Oh, that's a good question actually, because also that there is no standard division, and it's on your negotiation skills actually, where you know what the parties you will divide between all your partners actually. But in general now, what we see is like the global music market is half is already streaming, yeah, so the rest is physical and other downloads parts, and that's shifting already. When you look at the dance industry, yeah, it's 90% streaming, and in that 90% streaming is like 50 to 60% is already Spotify, yeah, and the rest is like the other 300 music streaming services like Apple Music, for example. There is already a shift coming up, because that's based on the territories. What we already see is the shifting of the streaming landscape actually in territories. So in India or in China, there are completely other music streaming services as we know here in the West or in other parts of the world. America, they got Apple Music, and they are slowly overtaking already in that territory, yeah, the position of Spotify. You know why? Very simple answer. They have an ecosystem. And that's based on iTunes and the Apple ID. They build an ecosystem, so they roll out now their clients. Finally, they shift from a download service to a streaming service. They were a bit like, hesitating and reluctant a bit, because they have to kill their darling, which is iTunes, which is downloads. Then they bought like Beats. It was the first music streaming service. But actually, they did the same before they started iTunes, because iTunes is not an Apple-invented product. It's software from somebody else, which they bought. Well, the music streaming service, the back end, or the structure on the back end, actually that's Beats. Same thing. And the guy of Beats is now the boss of Apple Music. So you see already the shifting, because they have clients, and the clients are actually we. When you buy an Apple product, and I see a lot of them here in this place, and we have to log in with an Apple ID. So we are more automatically already are like prospects of other services, of the Apple ecosystem. Yeah? And that's why they are accelerating now of Spotify. Because Spotify just has a music service. And of course they work together with Facebook. Yeah? So you can identify with a Facebook identifier. However, they don't have an ecosystem which they can tap in already. So you already see this coming. And these macro movements, these, and I don't know if I say macro movements, but it's sounding Dutch. Yeah, I don't know why. Yeah. So these macro movements actually are telling me what to do. This is how we make decisions. Yeah, this is how we say, like, how we focus on streaming. If you look at the numbers and the growth numbers on streaming in particular, yeah, then you see the completely shift from the sound carrier, the physical carrier, to an access model. For me, it's like access model first, which is the relationship model, or what I call part of the relationship economy. Yeah. And I leave the physical model, which is actually also now an access-based or relationship model, because you use Amazon or bol.com or other Ali to ship your products. So actually, and then you go back to a platform. There are the relationships again. But streaming first, completely focused. That's what we do. And when we are able to move those streaming, then cool. And then actually, when we talk about when the artist-fan relationship, which is the most important thing, then we have to have a story around the artist. Because we are following artists, we have a story. Not only the music, but we want to know the artist. Who are you? What is driving you, in this world, What are your points in where you live for, etc., etc. So this, and that comes together with, it's called social media. I think social media is the biggest bullshit ever. Yeah, I call it the internet. Yeah, but websites, email, social messengers like WhatsApp, etc. They're all social because it's a two-way traffic. Yeah, so social media is not. I always call it the rented space. For an artist. Your website is your own domain, or your email is the relationship you really maintain yourself. Or nowadays you also can maintain relationships via Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp. But when I create a Facebook page, then actually I create content on, like, say, landed ground. Because when Facebook doesn't like me anymore, they shut me down. Or awfully, it's clear now, when I gain 9 million fans, like Hardwell on Facebook, then I have to pay for the access to all my 9 million fans. Because these 9 million fans are not fans of Facebook, but they're fans of the content of my page, which I created, which is music and my story. Now Facebook let me pay for the access to my own fans. Ooh, that's a strange situation. But it's the same as the historical situation as which we have free record shop, where we didn't access that. So, to build the fan relationship again, then we use Facebook to build those relationships, and we try to find out how people are willing to get, to come to us and leave their information so we could start the relationship and a conversation.
Maybe this is a good moment to zoom a little bit more into the product life cycle, what it looks like, and maybe combine with the second question. So the first is, what does the product life cycle in EDM look like? So you have the life cycle of tracks, albums, and compilations. And to what extent are the release strategies of tracks, albums, and compilations related? Can you say something about that strategy?
Yeah, well, there's a particular strategy, to be honest. Like, when you understand the artist-fan relationship, then you also understand that your artist or your fans are actually fans who are divided in several parts. Actually, you have fans who are really like the innovators. They always like your newest song. Yeah? And you have the laggards or the followers, like, yeah, and they just like your catalog songs, your hits. And when you come up with your new song, they're not the first to listen to. Actually, first they start to complaining because they don't understand the new song. But by the shifting of the song to the early adoption phase or to the early majority phase or the late majority, then they come in and say, oh, well, I'm a fan of you, Hardwell. Yeah, so, and that's actually like, yeah, if you read the Diffusions of Innovation, actually, then you learn about the theory of thought, the Frenchman actually, which became popular by Everett Rogers. Yeah, and you have your already like model. You have like the early phase, yeah, the growth phase a bit, the sealing phase, and later the maturity phase. And this is like the phase we use. This is really, to be honest, the holy grail of releasing music. And actually, on the questions I got up front of this lecture, actually, there was also like the question about release windows. Well, we don't use release windows. Because already I was explaining about these four type of revenue streams. So we make layers of the revenue streams. Because what we see is like we have to create, like I said, with military precision plan, yeah, on these layers. What you already know is like when you're an artist and you know when you are going to perform. You also know then when you can release your music. You also can release your merchandise around it, and around that you can do your sponsor thing. And around that layer fifth, or actually the primary layer, is your storytelling layer, the story about everything, the products, and who you are. And that's around that. And then you set dots. So when you work with release windows, yeah, like the film industry, for example, they say, well, okay, we're going to release first a motion picture, yeah, and that will be released in the theaters, film theaters. Yeah, then after that it comes, in the early days on Blu-ray and DVD. That's not existing anymore. Now we have Netflix and other kind of video streaming services, and it comes later to one of those. Well, actually, I think this is the most ridiculous strategy ever, because when an artist-fan relationship, when the equality of is like the movie watcher and the movie relationship, yeah? It's a bit the same, the watcher and the product. What they say at the motion picture company, they say like, first you have to move from A to B to watch my movie, which means when it's raining, for example, or whatever. Yeah, you have to move from A to B to watch my movie. But when I watch your movie via a video streaming service or buy it on DVD or Blu-ray, but because they're still existing, that's also watching the movie. It's a ridiculous attitude to say like you have to move from A to B to get my product. Because then you have to spend time, which costs money, or you have money because you're going by car, yeah? By bicycle, which you bought, by scooter, which you bought or rented, or leased, whatever, yeah? Or by public transport. But the motion picture company says, like, you have to move from A to B to watch my movie, and you have to wait, otherwise, until later. But we are interested in products. Yeah? So for me, it's like the attitude, like you create the biggest window is like 1st of January, 31st of, and you pick like a constant story, because this is feeding your growth.
Just a clarification question. So do you, for each for each artist that you help, do you have a visual tool that you use when you make the dots, or is it something sort of implicit? Do you sort of say, okay?
No, you can create it on the whiteboard. Of course, there are great technological solutions for that now. nowadays. Yeah? But great Gantt chart, that maybe you heard about it. Yeah? There are great tools for that. When you're not able to create a Gantt chart by technology, then do it on the analog way. Write your moments, your key moments, and just draw them on a whiteboard. And when you understand that, you could fill them in technology. Because you need to understand the layers and the context of your layers.
Which of these layers are leading? Is it the releases of the songs? Is that sort of leading?
There's a constant flow of information. And that's the holy grail of maintaining relationships. Because we have to talk and to listen. This is like a cycle. When I distribute a message, I get a reaction back. When I got a reaction out of the blue, then I have to come with a message. And this is a constant thing, but around that you have your four or five layers.
I was wondering, in this action and reaction thing with the artist, how much freedom does the artist at the end has for their authenticity, for example? Like if he released something, he finds his favorite product, and then the fans doesn't like it. How much freedom the artist has to follow his path, or what the fans and all the stakeholders around want?
And that's a great question, to be honest, and a question which is often, I should have stelt in Dutch, but 100% authenticity, because that's he. You can't change this, and when you change this, people will know. Then you're not honest. Yeah? So for us, it's like you get 100% freedom. But we have to be aware that that's going to happen. That's what we call the if there's that, then that strategy by wording. Because when I release something, whether it's an opinion or a product, if this, then that, then there will be a reaction. And of course the reaction is quite clear, thumbs up, yeah? Or I share the message, yeah? Or I leave like, oh, what a great record. That's the one we really like. Yeah? And then comes the one who comes with, yeah, well, what a shite record, or a shite song. What were you going to do? Going to leave this, or, yeah? No, we're going to react. We're going to come up with a proper reaction. And we have to prepare artists on like, that's going to happen. And that's, because when you create a product, and somebody is really negative on your product, it's your baby. Yeah. So it's really difficult to respond to that. But even with a football player. And to be honest, I got the greatest case ever in my career, actually, my digital career, with Georgina Wijnaldum, actually the football player of Liverpool. Yeah? He was playing in the semi-finals of the Champions League. Yeah? And the first, it's a two-game match, actually, away and home, or home and away, whatever. Yeah? So they're playing away against Barcelona. And they lost 3-0, and they were not that good. When you lose 3-0 in Champions League, yeah, then you're almost excluded, yeah, from the next round. In this case, the final. What do you do with football players? Yeah, because football players has to also maintain relationship with fans. So for us, it's like when we began with I may say Genie, yeah, Genie, yeah, we said like you have to respond every game. Within half an hour after the game, you have to respond with how you experienced the game. Oh, that's difficult. Because I'm busy and I'm still in this vibe of the game and whatever, that got all things going on. I said, yeah, well, if we want to maintain the relationship and build relationship, we have to come with key moments. Well, in football it's very simple. You win, you lose, or it's a draw, which means equal. Okay? So these are three scenarios. Winning is always easy, yeah, because we won, we played well, happy had scored, We can find this out. Fans like them, thumbs up, great. Well, when you lose, what are you going to say? When you lose one of the most important games of the season, and you are excluded to the final, what are you going to say? And you played bad. Well, in this case, yeah, and this is like what I call also the new PR. Yeah, it's like, he said like, well, yeah, we didn't play well. We have to go to the training field tomorrow again, start all over. Yeah, how we say, put our shoulders together, head to head. Yeah, in 2 weeks' time, we are going, to give it the best we have, to do best. Next day in the morning. This is like on the same evening, half an hour. All fans like, yeah, come on. And we got this hashtag actually, which is called "You Never Walk Alone," because that's the slogan of. And he said like, you never walk alone. But I need you guys as well. Because when you're going to piss off now, that's the message behind. And it's not a motivation to come in 2 weeks' time again, like, and it's 2 weeks training, to win the next game, actually. Happily, something happened. But something bad happened for us as well. Because he was on the bench. He was not playing in the first half. He came in and he scored the 2 most important goals of the game. That's luck. You can't manage that. But in the first game, when he had this message on Twitter, all newspapers, the most important in Holland is called the Telegraaf, put a headliner on, Genie Wijnaldum says, put our asses together, we are going to win. The luck is, it happened. Sometimes you do. Well, that's how you go with authenticity. Yeah? So in football, it's like you win, there's a draw, or you lose. Come up with honest messages. Because your dressing room, so the other 10 players, or actually the whole 25-player squad, see your message as well. But it's not authenticity, and the next training was, what did he put on Twitter? Yeah? The same counts for artists. As an artist, you have to be honest as well. It's 100% authenticity. That's what I stand for.
Maybe to finish the question of the product lifecycle. So we saw that in the movie industry, most of the revenues are made in the theater window, at least in the first weeks. So you see that most of the people watch it in their first week, and then it really drops very quickly. And then most movies, after 8 weeks, it's almost like a flat line. So how is it with releasing new tracks on Spotify? Does it peak and then go down, or does it build momentum? Can you say a little bit about sort of regular...
Yeah, well, that's the product life cycle. And at the end, we come up with some great numbers on Hardwell, because that's showing the really... I have evidence of the theory of Rogers, to be honest. Yeah? It's like, well, what we do is like, the product life cycle is like bell curve, or bell graph. Does everybody know the bell graph? Yeah? Hopefully on the Amsterdam Business School. They will now.
You don't, maybe don't say so.
But it's like the product life cycle goes like this. So, and what we do is first we work with the innovative fans and the early adopters, and then it goes like this. And so the curve goes like that. And all of a sudden it goes like to the seeding phase or the maturity phase. And then somehow, when you don't do nothing anymore, they drop. So they immediately do. But when you're very, or using your data very smart, then you say like, oh, when I'm on the maturity phase, can I keep them on the maturity phase? So it has to be equal. Because your fans are returning, it's retention. And even with the retention, you get, because when you gain more fans, you get like this, so it goes like that. That's the one you're working on. Immediately when you see like some sort of the drop going on, you release your new product or your new story or your new whatever, and you relate to that. So sometimes you don't have a new song, but you have a t-shirt coming out, then you relate to the song. You build waves on top of each other. And when you build waves on top of each other, it looks like, and then it goes like this. And when when you're really able to do this on a clever way, it goes like this steep, exponential growth, because you're gaining new fans. Fans are coming back, so that they have retention. You have retention of fans, so they grow.
How many, let's say, weeks or months does it take to reach sort of the absolute max, even with all the things that you mentioned, so to giving new momentum?
Sometimes that's one of the things which is really difficult to predict, because music is subjective. So what we do now for the last 24 months is actually to put metadata on songs. Speed, volume, keys, like the tones. We put that in to learn, with the growth cycle and which metadata is performing that. Because we want to understand that principle. Sometimes it takes long, and sometimes it immediately goes like that. And that's the subjective part of music, because it's about taste. Yeah? What is a good song? Yeah? We already have decades good songs. Yeah? And they come and they go. And that's just a matter of taste. But it's also, you also could identify them, but therefore you need to, analyze more data. And we are just in the middle of the phase to put metadata together with growth curves to understand the music product better.
And besides the activities of the DJs themselves and maybe the labels, which media channels, persons, websites, blogs, or any other type of organizations or platforms are most important in making really successful? So you have the management, you have the artist. Are there any other important organizations in sort of the network that can help make it a success? And how can they do that? And how can you use that as an artist or artist manager to make it work for you?
Yeah, I'm not really like to talk about who, is, but I like to more talk about how they should work together and how this ecosystem is working, actually. So, obviously, your behavior is telling me what to do. Because you guys are all digital anarchists, including myself, to be honest. Because your behavior is awfully telling me which channels you are using and which not. And those behavioral data is already available. And it's telling me already like, oh, I should use a website because that's the only place in the digital ecosystem which is a place you control yourself. That's why it's called own domain. You own the domain name and you own the space where you put your website on. So a website, or an equivalent of that, an application of that, that's, for me, the most important thing. The other thing is a relationship. So that means, email. That's the identifier. That's you. You identify yourself with whatever email address you use, but that's the one I can reach now. So that is the next platform. And then, of course, your obvious social media use, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, in this order as well. Maybe you say, like, I only use Instagram, but I look always on a global scale. And the way how we use, for example, Instagram in Holland is completely different than in other parts of the world, where Facebook is more important. So the obvious four, that's the ones we are concentrate on. And they have all different functionalities. So Facebook is what I always call the cafe of the internet. So we do everything on that. Talking, sharing, watching, listening, whatever. Then we got a video platform, YouTube. It's quite big. 1.4 billion users or something. In compared to Facebook, 2.4 billion. And Instagram is 1 billion. And Twitter is about 300 million globally scaled. So that's the whole thing. And then we got China. because they have a whole different internet over there. They got the internet with a fence around. Yeah? So, and they have, unfortunately, copied all those 4 things. Because they have a Chinese Twitter, they have a Chinese YouTube, they have a Chinese Facebook, they have a Chinese Spotify, and they have all. Yeah? And China is China, so I leave China. So when you leave China, you got these 4 channels, including email, including website, and the newest thing is called messenger services, like Facebook Messenger, or WhatsApp, or maybe other messenger type. And that's what we call the dark social. And the dark social means actually nothing more than we can't read the messages which are distributed over there because they are in our close relationship. Yeah? But they behave exactly the same as the other social media types. So these are the channels we use, and we use them in relationship to this business model, artist-fan relationship, 4 types of revenue streams, and then we build an organization around that. And the stakeholders need to understand that mechanic, actually, and the mechanics in that mechanic. So that's what we say, the how. I don't know who. I don't care. I want to work with people who understand the how. If they know the how, they make a remuneration on music, fine. But when they contribute to the artist-fan relationship, then you will have success on the long term. Not about you are a good record company or the best manager. And so for us, it's like not about deals, it's about strategy. A strategy about insights. When you understand the macro insights, combining with micro insights, so contextual between these things, then you will be successful. And that's how you should organize, in my opinion, the artist-fan relationship, for example, for Hardwell, but also for a football player. Because that's the same mechanic, the same digital domains are there.
Maybe a few related questions before we open up the floor. Are there specific success strategies for Spotify marketing? In other words, how do you play the playlist game specifically? Because that's also what students have been reading up on. So first of all, how do you select specific Spotify playlists for your new releases? And how important are personal relationships with Spotify playlist curators? And how do you find out who these curators are? How do you meet them? How do you convince them? So how do you play the playlist game?
So the information is really on the article I shared already, but the name, well, to be honest, there's one big playlist on Spotify. It's called Mint. Yeah, that's the 6th biggest playlist. There are over I think 5 million followers. That's the playlist you have to be on. That's run by one person. It's called Austin Kramer, the guy. That's the one. That's the contact on your phone which should be on speed dial. And you can meet him, because I met him as well. You can meet him because he's on conferences, like the Amsterdam Dance Event, like the IMS in Ibiza or in Shanghai or in LA, or he's on Sonar, or he will be on industry conferences. And he's really approachable. Actually, he's so approachable that he has a forum on the internet where you can send your song to, and you even get reaction to. Yeah? But this is the guy we should be friends with. And then you get all the other playlists, which are like individuals, and you have to find them out. And they are there. And they are there that people actually creating playlists of different genres, so they know exactly. So there are people like Emily Williams, for example. Maybe you never heard of her, but look her up actually. She got, for 50 euros per month or something, or 10 euros per month, I don't know exactly the amount. Then she's distributing every playlist related to genres. So every new playlist to dance music or to electronic music. Every week you get an email saying like, this is the new playlist. And the same as it worked with Austin Kramer, you have to be in contact. And you can, because you can find out the playlist owner, and the playlist owner you can find out via social media, who it is, and get in contact. And this is the game. It's the networking game actually, and the one who has the best network. And here it comes. It's again the relationship thing. That's the one. When you're distributing your product to your network, you will find out what works and what not.
What is actually the business model of the curators themselves? Do they work for Spotify, or how do they make their money?
In the case of Austin Kramer, he's like the global head of dance music on Spotify. Yeah? And before that, he was a head-on show on Sirius XM, which is a big broadcaster in the States. Yeah. So yeah, for him, the revenue stream is probably salary and all kinds of extras. I don't know what. Yeah. What he does on secondary revenue stream, but yeah, also like the minor curators, they are working with you on you pay money. But yeah, that's already like in the analog world as well. You paid also money. It's called a plugger. It's the one who is bringing your CD single or your song to the music director of the radio station. And hopefully he will pay. Yeah, you have to play. And that means you have to pay your plugger to bring the song. That's the first curator. And he's investing in the relationship with the music director. And that costs money. He has to take him to a bar to get some drinks. Or you have to take him to dinner. Yeah? That mechanism is already like as old as it is. Like, building relationships costs money.
So one thing is figuring out who this person is, then meeting that person. Of course, you need to have a good song or track, otherwise they would probably
you have to need a good product. Yeah, that's all starts.
But even with you might think that's a good product, but what kind of data can you use to convince these curators to play the song besides the sort of the quality of the song itself? Can you sort of, what can you do? We talked about this.
Yeah. Well, I'm a big fan of like independency, which means actually I'm not gonna hang my whole career to somebody who's deciding to put me on the playlist. I start to gain fans. Because that's the first part, again, to the product life cycle, which I have to move. When I show movement, all these curators of playlists, their goal is actually to have the best playlist, which means that you have to put the best songs on which got the most listeners. What do? You analyze songs as well, and the ones who are really moving, these are the ones you put for 80% on your playlist, because you have to have followers on your playlist and you have to have plays on your playlist. Then you have a proper playlist. So for me, it's like investment in the innovation and early adoption phase of fans. That's the ones which are the really most important. They are moving the product. They are the testimonial of the product, because they are putting the sticker on saying, it's good, we believe in, and then you got the rest who is following. And that's the part we always said, like, what we always find out when we work with clients, we always find out they're going to advertise in the first phase. Put money on Facebook advertising, Google advertising, or any web advertising, to get fans moving. I said, keep your money in your pocket, because you got this first phase of fans, which is about 16%. So 1 out of 6. When you are able to move 1 out of 6 of your fans already, then the other will move as well. Or the playlist curators will say like, hey, there is some movement on, I see the movement, I have to put the song on, otherwise I will miss out on the success of the song. So they are also put songs on, which is like the first phase, because that's when they see the innovation phase or the early adoption phase, then they jump in.
So they can see that data on Spotify. They use those data.
Of course. They use YouTube views. Yeah, these are like public data. Just go to the, you know, when you know a song is released, because an artist saying like on his web page, here's my new release, or on his social media, or when you're actually subscribed to his email newsletter, and you know the song is there. Maybe you're not convinced of the song, so you keep it. Say like, oh, I know it's there, and then you go to start to watch to the movement.
So the timing of making a curator aware that it's out there is very important, right? That you need to contact them when it's sort of picking up.
So what we do is like creating some buzz with fans, and we already offer them to the curators. Yeah? Or when they don't jump in, and the next phase, which is like the early majority, and here is like what we call a part we call Death Valley, or the chasm. Look it up on, you know, there are complete nice books about. You need to read Malcolm Gladwell, The Tipping Point. It's explaining very clearly, you know, about the chasm. This is the part where you're going to have success or not. This is the make it or break it, the do or die. So when it's not moving, yeah, organically, as viral, then you can put in support. That's called advertising. Okay, so when it's not moving organically, then we put advertising. Advertising, that's the steep. We contact the curator again. He will see a movement. And then, hopefully, like Wijnaldum scored 2 goals in the semi-finals, he will pick up. Because at the end of the day, we're still, you know, depending on a bit of luck.
And do you then, maybe last follow-up question, I open the floor. So once it gets accepted or placed on an important playlist, when it's on that playlist, would you use advertising to give it another kick when it's going down while being on the playlist? Like you do also with songs, right? When it seems that it's sort of hitting the limit of number of people that are adopting. You could also do that when it's on the playlist, right?
Could,
yeah,
could. Yeah, sometimes we do, and then we see if it grows again. Yeah, okay, you got like this. Sometimes it's not moving, then immediately you come up with a new product.
So a new product and not advertising.
No, because we need money for the next product. Yeah. So what we always spend your money wisely. That's what we do. Yeah? If we see it not moving with money, then don't be ignorant. Yeah? Spend your money on your new product and relate the other product to your new product. Or the other way around. New product to the old product. And there we also have, when you go back to the former discussion about individual songs, compilations and playlists, you can also layer them. Because when you do individual songs, that's, you know, the layers we build. Where we build also compilations, where we put the other the earlier release on positions 1, 2 and 3. And we do the same thing with the compilations of the albums. And we do also the same thing with creating our own playlists. Putting the songs on 1, 2 and 3. That helps. That's how you build this curve.
That's an interesting trade-off between spending advertising on an existing song versus using it to make a new song.
Yeah.
But, all right. Any questions from the room, floor? I would need to bring the microphone.
Hi Dennis, thanks for giving us this talk. It has been very enlightening. So for those of us who are just starting out on the internet, in whatever field we're in, how do we, from nothing, like, are there any tips you could give us in terms of starting from 0 fans and building a bit of a presence from literally nothing?
Yeah. Building a network, actually. Yeah. How do you build a network? Well, a network is actually like building. It starts at home. That's how I learned it myself. And I said like, well, I have to convince my brother, to convince my mom and dad, or my sister. Then I need to convince my family. Yeah. my nephews, my uncles, aunts, etc., etc., grandpa. And then I need to convince my friends, direct friends, school. That's how you build, networks around you. And the worst thing of building a network is actually that it grows that fucking slowly. Yeah? Because in the beginning you really feel like, because it's the same bell curve. It takes long. And then you come to the chasm. And when you spend 1, 2 or 3 years and you just got 100 events, then you feel like, what the fuck? Why am I doing this? Why am I spending time to this? Etc., etc. Yeah, well, you have to wait until it's moving. But the network effect is telling, friends are telling friends. When you come in that movement, it goes quite high. And that's, patience. And patience, building a network is really to be relevant. So find out what's relevant around you. So 1 will be 2, 2 will be 4, 4 will be 8, 8 will be 16, 16, 32. So that's exponential growth. But find out in the first 100 fans you have what's relevant for them. Because that's already statistically a peer group which is telling you what to do. Yeah, so that's the relevant part. And then you have to be consistent. Because people who are following you, they're expecting something from you. I'm a blogger for now 11 years. Yeah? And when you have to be consistent, and you're also like captured in that system, you have to come up with your promise. And YouTubers awfully actually really showed, what a promise is. Google called it the YouTube promise. And they learned, actually, YouTubers, what the YouTube promise is. And that's consistency. Because frequency helps the algorithm to come up. When you come up with fresh content, then they have search results. Because the search engine will be bigger. Or the timelines on social will be, you understand? And that's how you build a network. So consistent. And then there comes the part, actually, when you really will be successful, and that's discipline. Because you can be consistent in the first phase, but discipline is really going on. Determined, I always say, that's the word I always use, and that's the success factor. And 9 out of 10 people are not coming there. So the YouTubers, when you look at the numbers, the big YouTubers like PewDiePie, you look at the beginning, it's like a really long time before he hits off. And the same guy with Enzo Knol over here in Holland, they have the same. That's how you build networks. And that's the network effect, actually. That's how I advise you should do. Be consistent. A rhythm, a digital heartbeat. And that's a digital heartbeat. That's a real challenge, because when you don't have a promise, let's say once a week at Wednesday at 5 o'clock, that's a promise. Maybe then you can deliver. It's like a training schedule for a marathon, to be honest. You have to be relevant. It's like, okay, I want to do a marathon in let's say 4 hours. Then you need a schedule. And your first training sessions will be like 1 minute walking, 1 minute, accelerating a bit. It's like jogging. 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, 5 minutes, bit running. 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. That's not real great training to set your goal for a 4-hour marathon run. 1 minute, 1 minute. Then you have to do weeks after week after week. Then you go like 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes. 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 15, 10 minutes. I don't know the exact schedule, there are more experts. Probably your marathon runners over here. But this is how a marathon, this is the same schedule you have. But when you're in, then you're captured. You can't go on holiday. Actually, I did the experiment with myself in 2011 or 12. Actually, I went on holiday. I went on a sailing boat to Panama. So I went off blogging. I saw immediately everything I built imploding. I lost all the things I built up. And then I have to come again. And it took me weeks to come to the same level again. And here comes now the answer to Hardwell's absence. Because this is the great game of networking effect. He was telling us last summer, I'm going to quit because I'm performing for 15 years. Yeah, I need to, get some rest. Well, he may. It's well-deserved, 15-year career. Yeah, so he may. Immediately we said the following thing. We know two things. We got Dennis' personalized data saying like when you're going off, you lose your fans and your revenue streams. Yeah? But I got this Avicii data. And I got 2 points where Avicii actually has gone. Literally. One is like in 2016, he was announcing in April or May or something, I'm going to quit. He quitted in August 2016, started to stop posting. Slowed down, but slowed down as well. His primary revenue stream, Spotify. His secondary revenue stream, YouTube. In 2017, at August again, I think, he came alive again. Before he got the same level, Avicii levels. Never thought about that. It took his months. And then he died. After a half year. And then it exploded. Because we have something like, we're going to listen all. But that only took 3 months and then it imploded really hard. His level of awareness was away because he was died. And then he released new songs a couple of months again. And now the album. And now you see it again. But it's not on the same level because in between he forgot to maintain the relationships. Hardwell does in the last 9 or now 12 months. And I have some figures which are proving the theory of Rogers, actually, to be honest. We came up with a consistent rhythm without using him, because he's on holiday, so we can't ask him things, whatever. And we came up with what we call the story of Hardwell. We call it the instant documentary, actually, or the Insta documentary. That's how we maintain, actually, his existence in the digital ecosystem. And here comes the build-up thing. Because we were very consistent, because we know 15 years of his existence, know what to do. We got all data, because what we did is analyzing his 350 competitors, which were in the DJ Mag Top 100 of the last 12 years. We analyzed their heartbeat. And he said, like, the heartbeat needs to be equal to the average or better than the average on top. That's the first data point. The second data point is actually we need engagement on the content, which is better than the average of the landscape, better than the average of the average. And the same on the interactions, which is the clicks. You know what happened? In the first 6 months of this year, he had 50% more revenue on streaming music than the first 6 months of last year, 2018. Then you got a smart guy in the office saying like, well, yeah, but Spotify growth as well. I said, yeah, correct. They growth 12% in the same period. So we growth 4 times bigger. And for me, it's like showing this thing. Because why? And that's the real answer. The whole turnover of this 50%, so with 50% becoming 100%, 83% of the songs are songs released before 2017. Which means mature songs, hits we know. And because he's not coming really with new hit songs. He had some songs on the shelf which we used to keep him alive. But they were not like, his hit song was Power, for example. They were not like Power. No problem. We use them as, and that's how you maintain a network. Yeah? So building a network and maintaining a network, that's how you do that. And it pays off. For me, this is the proof. This is the evidence of the, product life cycle. And for us, it's like, what's the next phase? Because we don't know if he's coming back. So we're thinking again, okay, now we're on this phase. Now we're going to maintain that position.
So just to clarify, maybe also building on your question about authenticity. So is Hardwell providing any content about his as a person? Because you said, well, you have the music, but you also post as a person. Does he post about his life while not being active as a DJ, or is it all content?
No, in this case, he want to have holiday. So yeah, that means also a holiday from social media. But what we did, we came up with the story of Hardwell, which is an authentic plan. So he's involved. He knows exactly 2 weeks up front what we are going to post. Which is, of course, about where he's played on Tomorrowland or Ultra Music Festival or those kind of things, when songs were played. But some moments were also personal moments. Like how he felt, for example, with the when he lost a fellow colleague like Avicii. So these are like authentic things, and these are things, he controls that completely.
Yes, he's not completely off the radar. He's still sort of active somewhere.
Yeah, but he also has trust in teams. Yeah, so he knows what's coming up, and he says like, I trust teams. I trust my team.
Right. Any other questions from the? Okay, let me come to you.
So I had a question in relation to his question about the curve. Does this also apply to, for example, music festivals? Because I know Thunderdome was gone for a few years, and then everybody was really happy when it came back. So I'm actually wondering if someone or a festival quits, isn't that actually beneficial for its success when it comes back?
Yeah, so the question is actually, does the curve also apply for festivals in general? Yes, of course. Yes, but what I will tell you a funny story. I'm this I don't know, I call myself a data nerd or something. Well, I got this hunger of like understanding the bigger picture. So what I did when I left ID&T in 2011, I had nothing to do because I was free. And I built something. I called a rankings platform. And what I did, I put all the festivals I knew, put in, and start to analyze data. And all of a sudden, over time, when you have like 1 or 2 years data, then you see something going on. And the one thing I really explored actually, like what was holiday or actually festival organizers go on holiday and they start on the point. So what you see on a macro level is they start in March, and in September this whole festival branch actually is on holiday because social media is telling me that. And then that's not only on Facebook, that's also on Instagram, and it's also on YouTube. So you see their movement. So I got 6 months off, 6 months off. On. Well, first advice which I gave to one of my clients, which is a festival thing, start to think about how you fill the gap, because with the release, with the music, it's also with your thing, you want to sell tickets. But in these years, when we were analyzing that, we're getting more and more festivals. Nowadays, in the dance industry, you got over 400 competitors. And there are only like 1.2 or 1.2, 1.3 unique persons are going to their dance festivals. And they only go about 3 or 4 times. So that means that you're going to fight like Hardwell against 300, and that's where you make the difference. Yeah? So when you have a good product, of course, and then it will sell out anyway. But the majority is not a good product. It's an average product. So you have, like, I would say, the good product, one of 4 positions. That's the festival everybody want to go. And the second is like the festival which almost everybody want to go. Then you can, like, well, we will see which of my friends will go and decide on the third of my choice. And the fourth is like, I'm really, like, spontaneous. I will see whatever who's calling this weekend, and if there are tickets. And so you're fighting for these 4 positions. And when you have this data of, like, when your competitor is moving, then you could fill this up with the story about your festival. The outcome is your ticket sales. And it works the same. Actually, we did this for Armin only. It's Armin Verburen. It's an artist. He got a show. And we had this discussion about saying, like, okay, he got this 20-year show, so he's 20 years of career of performing. And 2 years before, he did the Ziggo Dome show, yeah, in Amsterdam. And he said, like, well, yeah, I sold 2 times 12,000 tickets. And it cost a lot of effort and a lot of money to sell those 24,000 tickets. So I'm not convinced it can be bigger. We did some analysis on the data, and then we said, like, well, you could easily sell 2 times the Amsterdam Arena, at that time called Amsterdam Arena, these days the Johan Cruyff Arena. What do you think they said, the management and the promoter and whatever? Do you think they were happy with this outcome? No, they were not happy. We were selling, like, you can easily sell 75,000 tickets, which is 3 times more, without spending marketing. They didn't believe it. And then we said, like, well, okay, fuck. And we had this 6 months of analysis job over there. We said, like, okay. Yeah, but we said, like, no, we're not gonna, we want to do this because we are so convinced. Then we say, like, okay, he's going to do anyway 1 show because it's like, how you say this? I can't keep the word, but because of his status, 20 years, he wants to do the show anyway, even when it costs money. So he wants to invest himself. So he booked the arena anyway. And we said, like, okay, well, then you have your marketing plan, keep your marketing plan, but we're going to do it differently. And give us 6 to 8 weeks time, yeah, before you start anything, and we are going to do it on a different way. Because we're going to do this curve thing with the data. And the first messages we were sending, like, okay, saying, hey, Dennis, in May 2017, I'm existing for 20 years. I'm going to do something special. Are you coming? Here are your tickets. Don't tell your friends. What do you think would happen? We did this tranche of 10,000 tickets. So the first phase was 10,000 tickets. What do you think happened? Did we sell them all? Did we sell nil? Some. Who thinks we sold them all? Yeah? It's not good or bad. Whatever. Who? All? Nothing? Something in between? Yeah? Well, you're all wrong. We sold more. We sold 12,000 tickets. Because what we did, these innovators or these people, here's these core fans. They bought tickets for the last 16 shows. They were listening to every song on Spotify, watching every YouTube movie, yeah, doing all this social engagement like thumbs up, comments, whatever, yeah. So we gave them probability scores. 95% that they were coming. Otherwise, we have the wrong thing. This is why we were successful. And because don't tell friends, that's the extra. We used the network, and then all of a sudden everybody started confusing. Can you do it again next week? Yeah, of course. The next 10,000 and the next 10,000. And that's what I mean with the festival organizer. When you do this, I got perfect examples. I wrote about, I think 3 or 4 years ago, festival called Pitch in Amsterdam. Great festival. New kind of music, which is really big now at the moment. Yeah? They didn't maintain the relationship. When you look at their social media data, they went on holiday. And they were lekker. And so that means that you were losing relationship because there are 400 other competitors which are also fighting for your attention. And this is the solution for the festivals actually. Fighting for attention. Come up with a rhythm. Come up with this YouTube promise, that the digital promise of the heartbeat. Work on your engagement whole year around. And then you will sell tickets. And you know exactly how many tickets you're going to sell. And the first year, yeah, you're going to do the same as Armin. Retention. Getting the people back who come to first year. No, what our festival organizers do, yeah, and this is a great thing. I call it the ticket bingo. They're going to say, well, pre-register, maybe you have a chance, yeah, to get a ticket for the next edition. You know what? That's the most fucked up marketing message ever. Really, I hope this is on video, because it's like, you know, this is really the most, because when building a relationship and building on this curve thing, you want to have retention. So moving from the innovators, which are the first, you know, in the first edition, then you come up on the early adapters, which are the ones who in the first edition shifting from the innovation part to the early adoption part. That should be your marketing and your communication message. That's how festivals will be successful. Not dropping out and being on black and then come back in 2 years or whatever. No, building on your fan base. That's what I believe. And it works. Believe me. Because we did the same with Hardwell last year in the Ziggo Dome show. We easily calculated and we said to Mojo Concerts, well, we're going to sell out. How do you know? Yeah, we have this phase and we do this we draw a data model on it. Well, I never had a data model which was almost for 95%. Yeah, right. Because we had this 5-6 year behavior of fans which was showing what they will do. And it went like this. Up. And then because we started, the show was in October. Yeah, we started in April, May. And then we said like, hey, we have some other data, which is called the festival season. The early adopters are going to buy, but we need to keep money in our pocket because we know that the pre-sale of all the other festivals are 100 days. And when we know your positions 1, 2, 3, and 4, then there will be first positions in this period. So we should move in September again to build up the rest of the curve. And this is a great case, to be honest, because we work with Mojo and they have a marketing department. And you know what marketeers do? They're going to the office each day and they're going to do marketing. And marketing means spending money. And hopefully you will sell something or be aware, or your brand will be aware. Yeah? But when you know this whole behavior, then we will, the marketeer said, no, we're going to do something on Radio 538, one of the biggest radio stations. Yeah? And the outcome should be like selling tickets. Well, the data told me already, like the behavior we predicted, we're not going to sell tickets in between. Yeah, 50 to 100 a day to some fans who are deciding anyway. Because we have this rhythm talking about this event. Well, all of a sudden I hear this radio spot on 538. And I go to the team saying, who decided to go on? Yeah, Mojo decided to go on. So why? We're not going to sell any tickets because we have this model. Oh, they're not convinced. Okay. And then they came up with I thought this is a really great thing. If you know something about marketing, you know about barter deals. You know about barter deals? Anybody know what a barter deal is? It's what you're getting airtime in exchange for tickets. When I give away 200 tickets or 300 tickets times 50 euros, or 54, yeah, that's quite an amount. That's about 15,000 euros. 50, yeah, 15,000 euros, yeah. We give away 600 tickets, that's already 30,000 euros. They gave away about 500 or 600 tickets. That's quite a lot of money, yeah? Because that's the turnover when you can also put something in your decoration of your show. Invest in your decoration. So they gave away, and I thought like, well, because they did the exchange, and their gut feeling like, it doesn't cost money. For me, it costs money. Because you give away something, and it means actually you still can do the calculation on how much it costs per ticket. It cost about 150 euros per ticket to sell a ticket of 54 euros. Because what we said, like in this period we're not going to sell. So we didn't sell tickets, yeah, a few. Of course there's some jumping, but you know, it's like, that's what happened. Yeah. And for me it's like the festivals, events, you know, they work on the same way of putting the bell curve in and deciding towards other external data. In this case, I knew on all the festivals what the lead time was to sell a ticket. It's about 103 days at that time. So I said, like, when I got these positions 1, 2, 3, 4, and this will be like fans, which are fans from Hardwell, and are not going to decide in this period to buy a ticket because they need their money, yeah, to go to Mysteryland or to go to Awakenings or to go to whatever where they go. That's a completely data-different decision. And in general means actually, and that's what we use, is Hardwell's heartbeat. Well, if you compare this to festival, then they have to have a heartbeat as well. That's what I advise. Start to create a heartbeat on a 365 days per year basis. And you sell always one time your ticket in 103 days average.
All right, we have to leave the room in 1:45, and it's now 39. So I think there's one question left. 1 second.
I don't know if this is a good question. It's a bit personal, so I hope it's fine. I was stalking your LinkedIn, and I saw you went from store manager to A&R manager, which is quite a big step. So I was wondering how you got that job. Was networking?
Yeah, that's a personal question, but to be honest, it's a real good question actually, because there is some advice in that actually. That's actually taking risks. Yeah. So when I started as a store manager, actually, me and Duncan, the founder of ID&T, started a record store in Alkmaar, which is under the, I think 40 kilometers from Amsterdam on the top in North Holland actually. And I was 22, and I was studying law, which is not really a beta thing or whatever. It's like, yeah. So, and I thought like, yeah, I'm passionate about something which is called music. And I could actually do something in that, which I really liked. But my hobby, I was like some sort of amateur DJ playing in the local neighborhood, for 20 or 30 people. And then you have to buy records. Records are very expensive. They cost about 18 to 19 guilders, which is about equivalent of 8, 9 euros. Yeah. So, and I have to, this hobby, it costs money. So I have to, work on Saturdays and on Thursday nights to buy my records, to play that records, and etc. etc. So the store is actually like, okay, wait a minute, I can start a store, so I don't have to buy records anymore, and I'm passionate about what I'm doing. And I thought, like, well, yeah, I was studying, but this law thing, I was not convinced about, And my parents are a product of the 50s, actually, and studying was like the thing. You have to study, otherwise, you won't make it in life. That was their thing. So that's how I start the store, with a passion. And however, when I have something, and that's, I don't know why I'm digital right now. I'm sort of self-learning, autodidactic. So in the store, we were like selling records of other people. And then artists came to the store with their cassettes, saying like, hey, I make music. Yeah, I want to release music. He said, well, what we could do is releasing music. And then all of a sudden, Thunderdome became big, and Duncan said like, well, you know everything about music. I don't know anything about music. Oh, could you set up the label? But then I learned about label, because there were no business schools, or like now, or like in Holland, or like all these creative industries for Fontis we have, or whatever. Yeah, so I shift. The shift is my own shift. And that's actually my passion. And my passion apparently is change. And I'm not afraid to change myself. Because I went from, and actually I have a beta degree before I do law. So that's already a change. But this was not really convincing change for myself. So I had to adapt myself. And to find out, actually, that's the personal part. But here it comes, Here comes the bell curve again. An innovator, which is moving and shifting towards himself. It's a growth model. And there's change. That's the thing. I try to find out. Yeah, you noticed well. You noticed well. It's like a real career path, actually, to be honest. But it's a career path which is coming along the way. Personal interest, digital. How does that come? Well, the answer is in the 80s. And the answer is my dad. And it's not because he was with computers. No, he was working at the police department, and they had computers at their work. But this was not new. So they financed private computers at home. That computer happened to be on my room. And he said like, oh, no, don't touch it. You may not use it. And I was sitting like, okay, how does that working? So I got this MS-DOS thing going on. Learn. Oh, these are the commands. And he was away. And I started to build programs. Never read any programming book. Yeah, so it's the whole personal change thing, and to find out things. And this whole digital thing started there. And in the mid-90s, we were exploding together with IDT in the internet. 95 is the exploding of IDT, is the exploding of internet. Yeah, that goes hand in hand. And there starts my digital career. Yeah, so that's the whole movement. I hope this answers your question. Yeah.
I think that's a very nice last question, actually, to round off the talk. Thank you very much for being here. Round of applause. It was very insightful. We had a pre-discussion about this guest lecture last week, but it was a lot of fun. That the talk is always a little bit different than you would expect. But I think it was a nice mix between strategy, there was really clear examples, and also the link to festivals, I think, was a very interesting one. So also thank you for your questions. And this was also the last time we meet, at least for this course. So I also would like to wish you well for the exam, and hopefully see quite a lot of you in the Entrepreneurship Management and Creative Industries track. All right, thank you.
Cool. Thank you.